Hi, I'm Trisha. I'm talking to my friend September on speakerphone right now, who is an art teacher in our district, and we are going to discuss the teacher burnout versus demoralization topic. So, September, when I was reading this article, the term burnout is deeply entrenched in the discussion about why teachers leave the profession. We've all used it to some extent, and making the case for the decade that it could be a misdiagnosis. What tipped you off that the term might be inaccurate in many cases? So, teacher burnout, we talked about this earlier, versus demoralization. Do you feel like there's a difference?
Yes, I think that there is a difference between both. I mean, I think when I think of burnout, when I think of a teacher who's burnt out, they are like, they just can't do anymore, right? Like, they just are punching in, punching out, like, do the very minimum, like, show up only for the paid professional development days, don't come in beforehand kind of teacher. And when I think about demoralized, for some reason, that strikes me as like you're working as hard as you can, but like you feel like you're never good enough. And that's a different feeling because you're still trying.
Yep.
That's kind of how that feels to me.
Yeah, I felt the same way because I was reading this and I like that they actually brought that up because it's something that, you hear burnout all the time. And I feel like this past year, I would almost say I felt burnt out, but not because I was a bad teacher, because I just wanted to quit or didn't like what I was doing, but more because I was overwhelmed with the amount of things I was trying to do well. And I think you've talked about that too, and just how hard it is to do everything well.
Well, and I feel like we put so much pressure on ourselves as teachers and even on each other, like I know that there's this feeling amongst teachers like, wow, they only do this, or, oh, they're showing a movie again, or, oh,
Yeah.
I feel like we hold each other accountable to sometimes unrealistic expectations and, and not give each other a little bit of grace that, like, this job is hard, and sometimes you need to, like, every once in a while, I think you do need to, like, whatever the funny, like, easy thing that you would give a substitute teacher to do with your students, every once in a while, I feel like sometimes you need to do that for yourself and, like, let yourself be a sub in the classroom for just, an hour sometimes, just to, like, breathe.
I agree. And have fun with the kids and remember what you're doing and why you first got into teaching, because it's overwhelming when you start thinking about all the stuff you do. In fact, I don't know about you, but you've had big changes recently, but when I teach a new subject for the first time, it's almost refreshing because I don't feel like I'm already like I should be a master at that I give myself a little grace to make mistakes and try things. Whereas the classes I've taught for a long time, I feel like I'm a little harder on myself. Like, you should have this by now.
Or you have it, and so it's not as exciting because you're not discovering new things. So then you're presenting it, but you like, and it's so easy to be like, well, these kids, for some reason, these kids don't get it. But my first time I did this, those kids totally got it.
Right.
But like, it's only because you were more excited.
Yeah.
And so when you present it the second time or third time or fifth time, you're like, oh, okay, so this, or like you remember back to like this former student who like rocked something, and you're like, how come nobody else is doing that?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And even like the times that changed, I remember doing lessons on things like Eminem, and he was a rapper that was really cool and relevant like 10 years ago.
Right.
And when I do it now, I'm like, oh, I should probably update some of my resources because these guys, that's not cool to them anymore.
Right.
Jeez. So the other thing I would say is when it comes to like the future, do you feel like, I feel like we're kind of on an upswing. Like, teachers have kind of been put down for a while now, and we know that high stakes testing is hard on us. But I feel like maybe we're at that point where it could be getting better.
I'd like to think so. I mean, I don't know if politically the climate is allowing that quite yet. I feel like we're ready. I think we've hit the bottom.
Yeah.
And I hope that things will turn around. I know I've seen a lot in the last 5 years in particular, a lot more about student-led classrooms and play-based learning, and there's been a lot, in all the subject areas, there's been a lot of interest in like returning to letting kids be kids.
Yeah.
And I've seen that even in our own district with the way that they've, instituted like the outdoor school and all that stuff, that I feel like there's you're reaching some teachers and you're reaching kids. Like, I think they're thinking like, oh shoot, we went a little too far and maybe that pendulum should swing back. I think it's going to be a slow swing.
Yep.
But I think I do see that trend. I mean, there's so much competition now with, what this school offers versus what that school offers, and they have to make learning accessible to kids. So
I agree. And as art teachers, we're in a unique situation where we don't have a standardized test. And a lot of days I'm thankful, but some days I kind of wish we did, because I feel like those courses are supported more because those are the ones that they know are going to count.
And they get the money.
Yeah, but I do feel like we, in a lot of ways, support a lot of the things the cores do, and we have the flexibility to do it. So often I find my administrators coming to me, and I'm sure you do this too, for the extra things. Like, hey, could you do something with, a little bit extra reading? Could you work with these career skills? Could you be doing some of this in your class? Because the other teachers are maxed out, and they know they're being tested, so they allow them to kind of do that, the more practice and the redundancy of what needs to be done, the fundamentals, and we're being given the extra stuff, I guess, is how I feel.
Right. Yeah, I think that we are given the extra stuff. I think that also good principals, not all principals, but good principals recognize that, when they come into our classroom and it's so student driven, in comparison, like the things that we do as a matter of course, as the way that things are naturally done in a studio environment, like other teachers strive to have what we do daily.
Yeah.
Have that, like, that open kind of learning, like where it's individualized instruction almost, for every kid. They really learn a lot from us, and I think good principals recognize the strengths that arts teachers have, that how we teach is like kind of like what I feel like the rest of the content areas are moving towards, or trying to move towards, within their confines that they're given.
Yeah, and I do feel like that it's fun for them to come into our rooms and step into our rooms and see what we do, and they enjoy it. But also there's this fine line of, because it looks like the kids are engaged and having fun, that what we do is easy. And when reality, to keep that level of engagement that high and to keep things organized without getting chaotic, that's a whole new ball game.
Oh my gosh, so many materials. Well, and I think about this too. I think about like other content area teachers. If they do a project, like there was this guy who taught across the hall from me at my old school.
Yeah.
And once a year he did Historama. He was a social studies teacher. And the kids would make little dioramas of a moment in history.
Yeah.
And that was like one time a year. And he like devoted like 3 class periods of having like hot glue guns and stuff in his classroom. And that was like the highlight of his year, right? Like that was like the one hands-on learning experience that, and then the kids' families came in and they saw the, dioramas or whatever. And I'm like, I do this every day, all day long. And it was like, he had to gear himself up. He had to and he didn't even supply the materials,
Oh, yeah.
They brought their own stuff in. Half the things were made at home with their families, So, but it was like such a big deal for him to do this. And, and so like applause, like so many parents were so happy about it. And so the principals are so, and I'm like, dude, every day, all day, that's what we do.
It is though. And it's, I've taught other courses besides art, I've taught my foreign language, French and things like that. And there's almost a sense of like, it feels easier because you aren't managing physically so many materials. But I also feel like I know whatever people teach, whatever your passion is, you care deeply about it. And because of that stress of trying to do a good job and make sure that you're meeting all the requirements, like I never will say one thing's easier than another, but I will say that I have taught, different levels and different subjects, and art is that one that there's just so many possibilities that I think that becomes overwhelming sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and it's not because it's not like scrutinized and it's not tested. It's like that philosophy of like, when you have too many choices for things that you get like choice paralysis.
Yes.
You're like, it's a beautiful day. I could go to the beach. I could do this, and you're like, what do I do? And you like have too many choices and you're like, I don't know which one to pick, And I feel like teaching art is a lot like that because we can do so many things. You can fit so much I could do art history focused class. I could do career focused class. I could do, weird animal focused class or whatever. I mean, it could be anything because you can find a way to make it connect because it's so integral to the human experience, art is,
Yeah.
It's just part of being human, and so it's so easy to connect so many things to it, and it's not so much the case with, like, pronouns.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yeah.
Oh, and I feel like, I reached out to you because you are, by all means, a master teacher when it comes to art, and you've taught a lot of different grade levels, but you also, you've been teaching how many years now?
This coming fall will be year 20.
Okay, year 20, and you still, and you're still excited about what you do, and, I know, but you've also shared, like, we've had these moments of, like, stressful, like, oh my gosh, we're doing so much, and how do we kind of weed through what's really important and what's not because we don't want to burn out?
Right.
So I feel like this demoralization topic of, like, it's not really about us giving up and not loving what we do, but more about kind of not feeling like what we're doing is enough, no matter how hard we try.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and one of the things I've learned, probably if I were to give any advice to, like, a new teacher starting out, is one of the things that matters the most is surrounding yourselves with positive people.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's so easy that whole, like, you can take a bad situation and make it 1,000 times worse by being around somebody who's negative about it.
Yep.
I mean, it's okay to vent. It's okay to be, like, stressed and be like, this isn't right. Like, like the teaching situation that we're entering to in this fall with the kind of chaos that we're having right now with, like, who's going to be in what classroom and what's happening, and reducing the program and cutting things down. Like, I have to put myself in the positive mind frame of, like, okay, well, if they're going to reduce the program, my main goal this year is to make art class so much fun that kids want to take it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's the goal. The goal is to build the program. That's my goal.
Yeah.
My personal goal is to make so many kids want to have art and so many parents demand art that they can't ignore us. And that's, and you have to have that. You have to have, like, the ability to reframe yourself. And that's a tough skill to learn. I mean, it took years of teaching to, like, first know to, like, don't go in the teacher's lounge if it's negative, right? Like, that took some time to figure that out, right? And, like, don't let yourself be around these people that are negative and, like, that will demoralize you, right? And then try to find the positive spin on whatever the negative situation is. And it's okay to be stressed about the negative thing, but only let that be for a few minutes. Yeah. Like, vent it to somebody you trust, get it out of you, and then reframe it in a positive way, and take it as a challenge or something.
I love it. I love that, and that's what I love about you. And I will say the other thing that I've found myself doing a lot is when other people outside of education, we all have family members or friends, oh, summer's off, must be easy being a teacher. My go-to reply now is, you are so right. My job is so easy. Yeah, absolutely. Look at me. Nothing's going on. This is the easiest job in the world, and I just kind of start to, like, overemphasize what they say, and then immediately they'll be like, well, I didn't mean it like that. And I'm like, oh, but you sound like you did. And, you're saying that, so I'm not going to argue with you. If that's how you feel about what I do, that's fine. But let me show you what I do. I feel like I've mastered, after years of experience, some of my teaching skills, so I made it look easy. So I'm taking this as a compliment that you think what I do is easy, because I practiced for a long time.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I mean, people, I have that same kind of, like, oh, must be nice, or must be, and you're like, oh, okay, just come visit for a day. Follow me around. Any day. Notice that my Fitbit goes off at 10,000 steps by 4th hour.
Yes. Well, and I love that too, because, if they do ever this is the problem though, people all have been in a school, so they all assume they know what happens in a classroom. And I will say, even myself, being a high school student and then being a teacher, last year I visited a math teacher, and in my mind, math teachers still did what my math teacher did 20 years ago. And I walked into this classroom and I was just blown away by what the math teachers do nowadays versus what they used to. Everything has changed dramatically, and until people...
a lot more competition.
Oh, yeah.
A lot more competition for kids' attention and their attention spans and everything, Like, it's a lot more challenging. You have to be a performer to be a good teacher. And I don't think that that was the case when we were students.
No, I don't think so either.
I mean, I think the teachers we remember were performers, like
Yeah.
the ones that were like really caught our attention were those people. But I think even to survive now, you have to have a performance quality about you.
I agree. So,
You know.
September, I want to just say thank you so much again for taking the time to talk to me about this. I always enjoy talking to you. And I know that, it's summer break, so you should get back to the beach and whatever you were doing with your family. But I want to say thanks, and we'll see you soon. Only a couple weeks till school starts.
Sounds awesome.
All right, talk to you later.
Thanks. Okay, bye.
Bye. So that was my friend September, and she's amazing and one of the people that I look up to when it comes to teaching art. And I feel like, those are the people you find, the people that are positive, that keep you excited and motivated and keeping you kind of doing what you do. So I hope that was helpful, and thanks for listening.